If I asked you to name a useless mob in Minecraft, out of all the mobs in the game, you might mention some like polar bears, striders, or even some that don't even drop anything, like bats, endermites, or even ocelots. Which, to be fair, you've got a point on ocelots. However, bats could help you locate a cave when you're strip mining. And endermites are surprisingly useful for enderman farms, as they're used to lure the endermen. But then there's mules, which if you didn't know, you have to manually breed a donkey and a horse to even get one, meaning you have to go out of your way just to bring this mob into existence. Now you might be wondering what makes mules so useless. Well, it's simply because they do exactly the same as donkeys, which in premise isn't bad, because donkeys can run the same speed as horses if bred right, and can also hold a chest, giving you extra portable storage. Which is great for a mob that you only have to breed 2 of to get to the maximum potential. Which brings us to the downside of the mule. As to get the max mule, you would have to breed 2 donkeys to get a max donkey, as well as 2 horses to get a max horse, and then breed both the horse and the donkey until you get the best mule you can. Meaning you have to go extremely out of the way just to get the best mule you can, for what is ultimately just a reskin of a donkey. When you could spend half the time getting the perfect donkey, whereas getting the perfect mule would take 2 times as long. But now, onto the next useless mob, the ocelot. While these used to have a use, now they are literally useless. The only thing you can do with them is kinda tame them, by giving them a fish, which makes them no longer run away from you when you approach them. However, you can no longer tame these and turn them into cats like you used to be able to. As now, to get cats, you simply just tame them from a village. So what was once a pretty rare mob that you had to go out of your way to get, became pretty common. So now ocelots are completely useless, as you have to go out of your way just to find a jungle to even find one. Now here is where I'd put parrots. That would be if you couldn't tame them and have them as pets, and have them on your shoulder. As well as... With Pigstep playing, it feels pretty fitting for this next useless mob to be from the Nether. Now, as well as this mob being useless, it's not really notable either, as the only real thing of note to ever happen with them was maybe Dream clutching with them once or twice, but even mentioning that, you still might not be able to gather what this mob is, because pretty much everyone just forgets about these. This mob being the Strider. Now, Striders do drop string, however, I don't think anyone's hunting these things down for string, although you can ride them, and they're fairly fast on lava, but I don't think it's anyone's preferred transportation choice. Sadly, leaving these mobs to wander on lava lakes until a single player picks up a saddle and a warp fungus on a stick, and finally gives them some attention. Talking about attention, this next mob gets a bit too much, and not the good kind, as I'm talking about llamas, with their only use being spawning with wandering traders and giving you free leads, which, if you didn't know, these are trader llamas technically being a different mob, but they're still ultimately llamas. And if you didn't know, you can actually tame llamas the same way you tame horses and donkeys, as well as put chests on them. However, you only get 6 storage spaces with llamas, making them just a worse version of a donkey. As with donkeys, you get a lot more storage, and you can ride donkeys wherever you want to go. Honestly, I'm going to backtrack a bit here, because if you remember, earlier in this video, I talked about how bats could help you find caves, but let's be honest, most of the time you're going to be alerted to caves by mobs. And it's not really that hard to find mega caves nowadays. So that's why I'm going to be adding bats to the list of useless mobs, as they're cool for ambience, but there's not really any way to capture them and bring them to places like you can with fish, for example. So they aren't even useful for decoration. Although, it is kinda cool that they can spawn on the surface at Halloween. But that's about it. Now, to finish off, I'm going to go through a few honourable mentions. These are honourable mentions because they have a few niche uses. While some of their features are somewhat niche and kind of useless, they're not fully useless, so I don't think they deserve to be deemed completely useless. And to kick off this list, we have the sniffer, as it doesn't drop anything or really do that much, but it can dig up ancient seeds. And ultimately, that is a use, because some of these flowers are kinda cool. Now, onto the next mob. The polar bear, which arguably could be on the completely useless list. However, I really just believe that this biome, as well as all other snowy biomes, just wouldn't be the same without them, and would feel quite bland. With this being their natural home, it just feels right. And without them, would be quite desolate. And call me biased, but same goes with pandas. I mean, you can't not love them. Next on the honourable mentions list is turtles, as turtle eggs are super useful for some farms. However, some of their other uses aren't as useful. Now this next use is very niche, as it's not really that often you're fighting off underwater mobs in massive groups like this. However, if you are, then axolotls will come in very handy, as they'll help you fight them off as well as give regeneration, but that is ultimately their only use, other than looking pretty cute. And last but not least, the allay, which I'm only mentioning them because some people might not know that these are responsible for one of the most overpowered XP farms now, as it will literally generate more XP than you can take in at once. So I just wanted to give them a little mention, in case anyone didn't know about that. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I just wanted to mention this video was supposed to come out on Saturday at 10 PM Greenwich Mean Time, although I procrastinated a little bit here and there, so it was delayed. However, as Mr. Mario himself said, a rushed game will forever be bad, but a delayed game will eventually be good. He's talking about games, but it doesn't matter. It's same goes for videos, whatever. Thank you, Mr. Mario, for that quote. Anyway, see you in the next one.